Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is your boy Jarrell Mason, aka J Mason Sum, and welcome to another edition of Beyond the Album Cover, where we get inside the entertainment industry with those in the know and give them their flowers while they're here to be celebrated. With me, I have no stranger to the podcast, my bro from another mother. We've been rocking it
Hey,
since our Greensboro days. Patreon.com/slash just be man no DJ to support. You need them in your life, you need them in your set. You don't want to end up like Flex and Juice when Queen Latifah told him the skit was totally sloppy. Nobody likes the songs you play. No one will open up with the songs with the way that you do. It's whack. Face it. Face it. Patreon.com/slash just be man no DJ. B man in the building. What's going on, bro?
yeah. Hey, man, I'm here. I'm a little under the weather, but I'm here.
Man, but I appreciate you taking the time out despite, you being a bit under the weather. So we're going to go ahead and
Sure.
jump right into it. So we both had the opportunity to go check out the Force Tour. That's with LL Cool J, The Roots, Rakim, Big Boy. And depending on where the stop was at, acts would vary. So I went to the Albuquerque show and you went to the show that happened this past Saturday in Charlotte. So what
Correct.
was your takeaway first going up into the venue and just the whole setup?
Man, you know what? I think it was awesome. Reason being, it's funny because at 8 o'clock, I think we got in the building at like 7:45. And I told my wife, at 7:55, I'm like, I'm going to the bathroom, get us a drink. I'll come back. And I'm thinking, my man Shortcut is DJing, he's opening up. So I'm like, it's going to take at least like 20 more minutes for the show to start. No, it started at 8 o'clock on the dot. Like I literally looked and I'm like, yo, they are starting on time. I've never seen a show, hip hop, R&B, it don't matter. I've never seen a show start exactly on time. So it was amazing.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention to them starting right on time. Cause I was so into shortcut set with the warm up. He had the video
Hmm.
screen with the video, and the cuts were on time. Came correct. R.I.P. Jam Master J. And I was like, man, I got to go look up some
Hmm.
more shortcuts. So I actually found some of his old DMC stuff, and man, shortcut is the truth.
Shortcut. Shout out to Shortcut. He's amazing, man. Amazing. Legendary too.
Yeah, the Albuquerque show was at the Sandia Amphitheater at the Sandia Resort and Casino. But funny fun fact, also on that same night down the road at Isleta Amphitheater, it was a 50 Cent show, the final lap with him, Jeremiah, and Busta Rhymes. So both of those shows were going on at the same time during the Force tour. So I'm sure a lot of folks are probably splitting hairs trying to decide which spot to go to for your hip hop fix.
Wow. Wow, that is a hard decision. Me personally, I probably would have picked the Force Tour though.
Yeah, I'm glad that I went to that tour as well because, like I was telling folks after I went to see it, it's like hip hop's Haley's Comet. Who knows what
Yeah.
that we'll never get this again? With the Roots, Jazzy Jeff, DJ Z Trip, who's LL's DJ, Black
Yep.
Thought, Rakim. At the Albuquerque show, Bone Thugs and Harmony came through. Big Boy was there. He brought Sleepy Brown. I mean, it was just felt like listening to your favorite tape made off the radio. Rap City, Yo MTV Raps, the box, video music box, all rolled into one.
Yep. Correct. Yeah, we had Rakim and we had Juvenile.
Oh,
Yeah.
did Juvie do the Cash Money records taking over for the 99 and the 2000?
I think that was the last record he did. That's probably the craziest joint. Yo, Juvenile has had like a great year this year. Like, I mean, not to say he fell off or anything, but his comeback with the Tiny Desk situation, it
Yes, sir.
really elevated what he already had going on. So that I'm super happy for him, man.
Yeah, and on a Cash Money note, I mean, I think BG just got out. So,
Yeah.
welcome home, BG. So can we get that Hot Boys reunion, please?
Yes. I would love to see that. Would
Yeah,
love to see it.
yeah, I would definitely love to see a Hot Boys reunion. Give the people what they want. I mean, also the other night at the VMAs, NSYNC came out reunited for the first time in 10 years. Everybody was losing their marbles. And I think they're probably in the process of maybe giving us what we want. And that's probably an album or tour because I heard rumors that with the new Trolls movies that's coming out with Justin being in the movie, that they're gonna do their first song together in over 20 years in that. So I think that's probably gonna be the seed that gets planted, which will probably lead to something bigger for NSYNC.
Absolutely. I hope so, man. I'm an NSYNC fan, man. For real, for real.
Yeah, man. I love both groups, NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. Had the chance to go see Backstreet Boys live, and they
Oh
were
wow.
dope. They were dope, and it feels like NSYNC. They're the only boy band from our era I didn't get a chance to see that I gotta complete my Thanos Infinity Stone glove. I had a chance to see New Edition, New Kids, Backstreet Boys, and Boys to Men. I need NSYNC to fill that middle ring.
Yeah, now we definitely need some type of something. I mean, they don't necessarily have to give us an album, but a tour would be dope. I think it would be dope to see like a boy band tour, like maybe New Kids on the Block, then skip all the way to Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees, and NSYNC. That would be fire.
Yeah, that would definitely be dope. And funny you mentioned 90 degrees as of the taping of this podcast, which is on Wednesday, September 5th, 13th. On the 30th of September, 98 degrees and all for one, they'll be performing at the Sandia Amphitheater here in Albuquerque.
Oh wow, that's super cool.
Yeah,
That's super
man.
cool. All for one too.
Yeah, yeah, man. Everybody sleeps on All for One, but man, All for One, they had some bangers. I swear I can
Yes.
love you like that. We were both original records by John Michael Montgomery, top country, but All for One put that flavor on it, went pop, and it just felt like the 90s when we think about it, man. It was like a murderer's row of R&B groups, pop groups too.
Facts.
All for One,
Facts.
98 Degrees, Boys to Men, Silk, Shy, the Boys from the Crib, Jodeci, Color Me Bad, Portrait, H Town. I mean, we could go down the list of all the hitters that came out in the 90s on the
Intro.
male pop.
Yeah.
Oh, another underrated group that I feel is unsung and don't nobody really give their props to. Intro, Troop 2. Like I said, Troop for
Yep.
me, they're up there with New Edition. For me, it's New Edition and Troop. And I can say for me, I had a chance to interview 4 out of 5 of Troop. Rodney, Steve, John, and Alan. And
Wow.
Alan actually gave me my first interview. So, if it wasn't for Alan, none of this, would be possible. So I was grateful that he said yes. So shout out to Troop, man, and RIP to Reggie, man. We're still
That's
missing
super crazy. Yeah, for
every day, man.
sure.
Yeah, man. But back to the Force tour, man. When I first got into the spot, it was like a line that was lined up to get in. I think they opened the doors at 7 on the dot. So I figured, let me go to the merch booth real quick, get my merch before the show. So I ended up getting in line, and I didn't realize how expensive merch was. I was trying to decide between a hoodie and a shirt. I wanted the
Okay.
shirt. The shirt was going to cost 45. So I knew hoodies in Tim season was going to be upon us. So I decided to cop a Force hoodie. I got the one where it had all the tour stops on the back. That was about 65. So I'm like, man,
Woo.
they making a killing off of merch.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Now they got to get that money, yo. Merch. Believe it or not, merch is where they make. From my understanding, is where people make the most of their money. Like nowadays, tickets you make money, but like they focus on that merch.
Yeah,
Definitely
man.
focus on that merch.
Yeah, man, I didn't realize that the merch game was very lucrative too, and also very lucrative, like you
Hmm.
mentioned, touring. Souls of Mischief, they're currently out on tour for their
Hmm.
30th anniversary. It's the 30th anniversary of 93 to Infinity. And like I was sharing with you prior to going to the Force show, they were going to be in a town in Colorado about 50 minutes away from me. And I was going to go to that show had it not been for the Force tour. So I was trying to decide Souls of Mischief
Or
or
Force Two.
Force. I was like, let me go with the Force. So I ended up getting good seats. I was 8 rows up from the stage.
Oh wow! I actually went to the Souls of Mischief show too. Shout out to Breakbeat Lou. He gave me some tickets. Me and my wife went, so
Very
that
cool.
was really cool. Actually, the cool thing about that tour during the tour, he stopped the show. They basically put a spotlight on me, and he said, "This guy right here did this." And he's like, "Put your hand up, B man." I put my hand up, and they played one of my edits during the show, which was really cool. It was unexpected. super cool, man, and especially coming from Breakbeat Lou. If you know anything about Breakbeat Lou, I mean, hip hop royalty. A lot of these samples and breakbeats came from his compilation called "The Ultimate Beats and Breaks," and yeah, it was surreal, man. Very
Man,
surreal.
man,
Show
that's
was
crazy.
great too.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. But I want to talk about for a minute for you to go from fan to peer, where a lot of these DJs they listen to your edits and they're like, man, you legit. You got the cosign from Jazzy Jeff, Questlove, Shortcut, Grandmaster Flash. I mean, the
Wow.
man that was in the room and literally figured it out all on his own, no manual, no nothing. Go watch his Sway interview where he talks about the quick mix theory and how he came up with all that stuff. So how's it for you to go from fan to peer to where the legendary DJs are giving you your cosign saying, man, you legit.
Oh man, it's really surreal for me, J Mace. Like I literally sometimes like I don't believe in myself. It's I am a fan. Like first off, is the reason why I started DJing. It's three people. It's Grandmaster Flash, DJ Nabs, and Jeff. So you know, being in a room or you know, it's surreal, man. I can't even explain it, bro. I don't believe it most of the time, and he's just such a great guy, man. Giving guy, down to earth. You would never know he's in the room. He's not that guy that says I'm Jazzy Jeff. He's just a cool dude.
Right. Yeah. And he doesn't twist the hat, bend the
Mm.
hat. Yeah, if you know, you know. The Stardust commercial, look it up on YouTube. And for those that don't know, Dad Jazzy Jeff's DJing skills, Google it. He's more than just getting tossed out the house by Uncle Phil. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
For sure, for sure. He's yo. To me, Jeff is like it's like kind of like a basketball player, right? You play basketball,
Mhm.
and you're an aspiring basketball player, and then Michael Jordan, you're in a room talking to Michael Jordan. Imagine that. It's like what? Like I I can't twist my head around it. Like it's crazy to me.
Yeah, man. So how do you go from where you don't fanboy out too much, but act not too cool for school, to where be in the room, act like you've been there before? Kind of some celebrities kind of get kind of if you fanboy out a little too much.
in my head, I'm fanboying out, and I still fanboy out in my head. But you always got to keep in mind that these celebrities are people, and especially with him, he'll just hit me up on a regular day and say, "Hey, B man, I appreciate you," and we'll have a regular conversation.
Mhm.
It's not like, yo, I just see him in person and that's it. Like Jeff is like, he's not a. I'm not gonna say he's regular, but he acts regular. So when you're around him, you feel comfortable. It's not like I gotta put on airs and act like I'm doing this and that. He's just a cool dude, down to earth. So when you get around him, it's like one of your homies
Yeah, something to do. You definitely want to go chop it up and go get a cheesesteak with. And just
for
break bread.
sure. I would love to go get a cheese steak with Jeff. Like I've never had a Philadelphia cheesesteak anyway, so that's a plus. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, man. But the show though, I mean, from the open, when the Roots came out with Questlove and Black Thought, I mean,
yeah,
I know a lot of people are like, the Roots, because a lot of the mainstream folks only see them from Fallon and maybe what Questlove did with Summer of Soul and Soul, but you and I, we know them from way back when, from what they do, Illadelph, Half Life, Next Movement, everything, and then to see their rise to where they're on mainstream late night TV, Questlove getting an Oscar. I
yep,
mean, to have him get an Oscar and with Questlove Supreme and what he's doing. I mean, I had a chance to interview Sugar Steve, and I told him, I was like, yo, y'all podcast is one of the podcasts that I kind of use as the model and as the blueprint, for what I do to really get into the backstories, get into the nuggets and
for
everything like
sure.
that, but coming in, Questlove's pocket is nuts.
Crazy,
Pocket is
crazy.
nuts. Black Thought, nuts on the mic. And then when Rakim came out, I mean, to see the awe, full funky in the flesh. I mean, doing paid in full, Eric B is president. I ain't no joke, and still vocally sounding like he did, my melody, microphone theme sounding like he did on the record. I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, yo,
Yeah. The the show, I mean, I think they got like 3 spots left or 2 spots left. 3 shows, 3 or 2 shows left. If you're in one of those cities, you definitely got to go to the Fourth Store. I mean, it's something you got to see. If you love hip hop, you love music, you're gonna love it because it's a little bit for everybody. Like I said, we had, I mean, most of them are legacy acts, but we had, like I said, Rakim and Juvenile. Juvenile's a little bit more younger than the rest of the guys, so it's a little bit in there for everybody. And not only that, they brought out their special guest. They brought out David Banner, so they had David Banner
mm,
come out too, which was cool.
yeah, I still say like a pimp should have been a theme song for P Valley. That's just me.
I love Like a Pimp. That's like for real. That's one of my favorite South records.
Yeah, that beat, and then of course, everybody knows, some may not know. Dave, I believe David Banner did the beat for Rubber Band Man for Ti.
He did. He did.
Man, that beat nuts, crazy. Because I mean, that whole crunk era, we're looking at it now as to where, man, how many fights got started because of Nuck If You Buck. Be a
Yep.
head bustle, no problem. Those songs were on do not playlist for
Oh yeah, for
nightclubs.
sure.
And
For
you know
sure.
some of those nightclubs that had them banned. And I think even also now, when you look at the Snap era with them Franchise Boys, D4L, Soldier Boy, Crane Day, I mean, he was viral before viral. And when you look at the hip hop tribute for the 50th that they did at the BET Awards, where they broke it down in sections, I kind of think now that era, especially the Snap era, is getting more love than it did when it came out. Because I remember when I first heard Laffy Taffy, I was like, "What is this?" And
We all did.
that was around the same time I'm Sprung came out too. And I'm glad T Pain is getting the love he deserves too. That whole rapper turn singer album. Woo!
Classic.
You had to be there to
Classic.
understand.
Classic. Yeah, T Pain is. That's somebody I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said I feel like we take this guy for granted. Like I don't think people realize how many hits he has, how talented he is, and he can really sing without auto tune. Like people just think, oh man, he's just singing with auto tune. Nah, T Pain is dumb talented, like another level of talent.
Yeah, I mean, he
So
won season one off Mass Singer. And then, after Rakim, our special guest was Bone Thugs. And
okay, cool.
I didn't realize how huge Bone Thugs was out in the Southwest. But once they immediately came out, the medicinal was heavy in the air. You could feel it in the
I
air
can
like
believe
Benny
it.
Siegel, man. And their hits, gone deep from East 1999, Thuggish Ruggish, Crossroads, the record that they did with Biggie, and man, I mean, think about, they were the last set I think believed to be discovered by Easy E before he passed. I
Yep.
believe. Yeah, so to have them from the Midwest Cleveland be tied into the West Coast legacy with Easy E, and then everything that came out of, Ruthless, and then later what Dre did with Chronic and Snoop, Doggy Style, just being off of that tree,
Yeah,
you
for sure.
know, just to see them. And then after Bone, it was, I think, LL ended up coming out, and he broke his setup in half.
Yep.
And when LL came out, I was like, yo, because LL's in my top five of
Oh
MCs.
wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
All right.
got LL in my top five. So when LL came out, I mean, I literally stood up the whole show and was like rhyming word for word. It was that type of energy that was in the show where, if you were sitting down, something was wrong for you. But I mean, but when the man that invented the term GOAT, came out, I mean, it was just like, yo, I remember watching this man rocking the Kango hat saying I need love on Video Soul, and to see this man up in the flesh and see
Yeah.
the mic tag. And I mean, I'm like, yo, this is surreal. But I think this
Yeah,
tour is reminding folks that, yo, don't let this Hollywood NCIS money fool you. I can still get busy on the mic and on the stage if I want to.
yeah. Now, LL, I feel like he's one of the people that people take for granted. Like LL has been around for, I mean, at least 35 years plus, like probably almost 40 years, right?
Yeah,
'Cause I'm
radio came out.
34.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost 40 years. Like LL is just a whole different level. Like, man, not only is he a rapper, just a talented guy, actor, you know what I mean? Like, it's LL, man. A lot of these rappers that come out today, or even cats like Jay-Z, they modeled themselves after LL. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So it's
because yeah, I
go
didn't
ahead.
mean to cut you off, but LL, just think about it. Like he's been out as long as I've been alive. Radio came out in '85, and how if it wasn't for him, there'll be no Def Jam.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there would be no Def Jam. You know what? When I seen him on that stage, the first thing I thought about was Crush Groove. When he comes in and he's trying to play his record and goes box. I'm like, man, this dude has been around for forever and he's still doing it. And when I seen him on stage, it was kind of like, yo, he never lost a beat. He never lost a beat. Like he was up there doing a cross leg and jumping in the air. I'm like, yo, that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and I think this was his first tour since I believe the Nitro tour, like the early '90s. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think he ain't toured since then. So it's crazy to have this be your first tour in over 3 decades and to not have no rest at all. But for me, the funny part in the show was when he was doing "Love You Better." In my head, 50 Cent ruined that song for me because you after my cheddar.
Oh, you after my cheddar. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, man. I was thinking about that the
Off the
whole time.
mixtapes.
Yeah, yeah, man. The mixtape game, is
Hmm.
crazy. And shout out to DJ Mars, who I had on the show. We're working on trying to get Brill and Jai on the podcast. Go check out their podcast, Art Behind the Tape. Get the book art at artbehindthetape.com. But the mixtape documentary that just recently dropped on Paramount Plus, man, is a must see. I believe it was executive produced by Tony Touch, right?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I got the
man.
book right here. The art behind the tape.
Yeah,
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 that's
man.
that's that's a dope joint.
Yeah, man, I got that record too, but that book too. But man, the mixtapes, man. Let's talk about how with both of us being from the South, VA and NC respectively, how when those New York mixtapes flooded, they flooded hard.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know what? My mixtape game was a little bit probably later than your mixtape game. I remember probably the first thing that I seen was a DJ Clue mixtape. And at the time, mixtapes was coming in on cassette, most of them. I had never seen a mixtape on CD. DJ Clue was the first person that put it on CD. So I'm like, yo, this guy's making a mixtape on CD. That's next level. And then later on, I started getting the Hot 97 series. They were kind of like bootlegs from New York, I'm guessing. And they would have, I'll never forget, man, it had Buster What It Is right now. I'm talking about like a year before it came out. I had never heard this record before. And I was like, yo, this beat is crazy. And this is 2001. So I think I had that mixtape in 2000. And then the record came out like a year later where it was, on the radio and stuff. So, yeah, mixtapes, excuse me. Mixtapes, I mean, they definitely defined the early 2000s, 90s, I would say, well, actually, Kid Capri, 89, all the way up to, well, 88, all the way up to like, I would say, when did mixtape start falling off? Probably like 2008
When drama got
when
busted.
drama got rated. Yeah, yep. And that was kind of like the end of it because everybody
Hmm.
was scared after that.
Yeah, man, because with a mixtape, like Lil Wayne said in the mixtape documentary, is you pretty much take somebody else's beat and you pretty much put your own thing over it. What they're considered a mixtape now is just pretty much unreleased records or whatever. That's not a mixtape. You're jacking somebody else's beat like Ice Cube, and putting your own thing over it, that's a mixtape in the story.
Yep. Correct. Correct. Yeah, nah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the mixtape game was heavy in the high school hallways. I mean, folks who had a DSL connection, they were making crazy money off mixtapes. Crazy
Yo,
money to buy long white tees.
mixtapes provided a lot of currency for myself. I was one of those guys selling mixtapes in school. You know what I mean? It wasn't crazy like I was doing bootleg numbers, but it definitely got me like at lunchtime they had like the regular chicken patty and then they got the deluxe chicken
Oh
patties.
yeah.
I was eating some of those deluxe chicken patties because of mixtapes. So
Ah man, that's
yeah, for
that's
sure.
crazy. That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. And then after LL, I believe at my show they took a little bit of an intermission, and then they had Big Boy come out and he brought Sleepy Brown with him. And for
Okay.
me, man, it was dope to see Big Boy still repping for Outkast. Shout out to Three Stacks. Hopefully he can pop up and maybe bless us with a guest verse. Well, he actually did just recently because he's on the new Killer Mike album.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, they are definitely doing their thing still, man. That's one of the groups I think they'll never fade, bro. And I feel like Big Boy is getting to the stage where he's like Dr. Dre. Every time you see him, he has on the same exact outfit. He got like a black Dickies
Mm,
outfit, a hat, his chain. It's
mm.
becoming like his signature chain, like Frankie Beverly, Dr. Dre. They got these signature outfits. That's kind of where Big Boy is at.
Yeah, because when Kryptonite came on, I mean, everybody that know that record felt like they were Atlanta adjacent at that point, and like they were ready to go to a Waffle House and start some stuff. I mean, that's just the vibe that record brings. But when you think about Outkast and their legacy, with Southern Playalistic, Aquemini, Stankonia, Speaker Box, Love Below, no rap album has won Album of the Year at the Grammys since that album, and even further back, I believe their first appearance on a rap record, I believe, was to the remix of "What About Your Friends" for TLC.
TLC, yeah,
And that
yeah.
was before they did
Organized noise.
Players Ball, which came on the Face compilation Christmas album. But if you look at the
That's
Art of
correct.
Organized Noise doc, they were saying how that record was getting so much buzz and traction. They were like, nah, y'all need to go in the studio and cut a record. And then, as they say, the rest is history with them and everything that came out of that dungeon.
For sure. For sure. Now that spot, I mean, the art of no I'm not hold on. I'm mixing my word up. The studio.
Dungeon.
Stankonia.
Take on you.
Stank Stankonia.
Mm-hmm.
Stankonia is I mean, have you ever been by there
Now, I've
in
actually
Atlanta?
only been to ATL once, but I know Stankonia was originally Bosstown Studios. That was done by Bobby Brown, and then of course Outkast later ended up buying that became Stankonia. But now I got to make my way to the A to check out the landmarks and get those lemon pepper wet wings. Not at Magic City though.
Mingo. Your wife will kill you.
Yes,
Nah, Stankonia sits in like a residential neighborhood. Like you would never know it's there. Like that's what I'm finding out about a lot of these like studios that you're like, yo, like Timberland Studio and Master Sound where the Neptunes recorded. It sits in a cul-de-sac of a regular neighborhood. Stankonia, the same way. It's like a neighborhood. It's trees everywhere, and then you're like, what is that building right there? It's Stankonia. So it's pretty cool.
wow, and that's crazy. And speaking about Atlanta, and kind of the dovetail. This past Saturday was New Edition's 40th anniversary publicly since we first came to know them with Candy Girl. They've been together since '78, and then we all know different iterations that came out of that super group: Johnny, Ralph, Bobby, BBD, and how Michael Bevins. He just recently released a documentary called The Hustle at 617 Mike Biv, which you can catch on All Black. Shout out to DJ Shot Kim, by the way. That he really, I think, when ABC came out, that kind of put that launch pad with everything that came up in Atlanta after that, like Outkast and everything that came out of the dungeon. Because if you think about it, what ABC and what Chris Cross was doing, I mean, they were doing crazy numbers. And once again, that ties back to another person you had mentioned earlier that influenced you in terms of getting into DJing, DJ Naps, and how a
Yeah, for
lot of
sure.
people don't realize that before he went to Atlanta, Naps was putting it on for the Bull City in
That's
Durham,
correct.
and if you go to YouTube, I believe you can catch some audio clips of him DJing on the late Wax Master Tory's Mad Music Showcase show back on NC State's radio station WKNC Magic 88, and how, you know, just to think that these young kids, were really doing crazy numbers and
Hmm.
putting it on for Atlanta, and how I guess because of the whole situation and jump with the ABC disc, that was like, yo, had Biv and JD sat down and said, yo, they both from Atlanta, killing the game right now. Let's all go together on tour. My 7, 8 year old self would have been like, Mom, can I go see ABC and Crisscross?
Me too. Me too. Yo, crisscross to me was everything. I tell people that all the time, yo. I a couple of years ago, I was fortunate enough to go to JD Jermaine Dupri's Southside Studios in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in there, I'm looking around, and he got all this like memorabilia, plaques on the wall. And out of all the places, they're like, "You want to take a picture over there?" I'm like, "Now I want to take a picture by this crisscross poster." They're like, "By that?" I'm like, "Bro, you don't understand. Crisscross to me, first off, I used to listen to DJ Nab's Break. It was on the B side of All Right. Totally crossed out. I had 9 copies of it, the long box CDs when they came out with the big boys. I
Mm-hmm.
had 9 copies. Like I was a Crisscross fan. I didn't get to go to any concerts because when Crisscross came out, I was 3 years old. So I was just a fan of Crisscross. So like Crisscross to me is it. You know,
I mean,
they're
they
it.
were. I mean, they were elementary school for me. I mean, they were in Michael Jackson's Jam.
Mm-mm.
They had the Sega Make My Video joint. I remember
Yep.
when I Missed the Bus premiered on SNCC. I mean, these brothers had everybody wanting to rock their clothes backwards. And, I had a chance to interview Chris Kelly before he passed away, RIP, and how, influential they were to the music industry. And how, if you look at what JD did with them, you can see a direct line once he got with Bow Wow.
Yep. Yo, wait a minute. You got an interview. First off, you got interviews. Let me give you your flowers, bro. You have some of the best in depth. I'm not just regular interviews. Like your interviews are so in depth. It's very comparable to the Questlove Supreme podcast of that sort. Your interviews are great. Like you had Jason Weaver, who's like unsung. I don't think we give him enough flowers. Like people like that, these great interviews, and you really, really know your material, man. So shout out to you, bro, and keep doing it. The
Yeah,
fact that you got an interview with Chris Kelly, now I'm like, okay, after we get off this phone call, I'm going to find an interview and listen to it.
yeah, man. Yeah, I had a chance to interview him, before he passed away, and
Sure,
it was definitely a good interview, and just hearing him talk about Criss Cross, the beginnings, and how they really set the standard for what would to later come out of Atlanta, and to see Atlanta still thriving, and everybody no longer is going to New York or LA. It's all about going down 85, going to Atlanta and making
right.
your
Hey, yo,
bones.
have you ever tried to get an interview with not Chris Smith?
No.
You should really try, man. That would be a good interview.
Yeah, that definitely be dope. I've been trying to get a hold of Nabs to come on the podcast. Hopefully, Nabs, if you're listening, if you're watching, come on. You got a spot waiting. I definitely want to talk about, how NC hip hop culture doesn't really get talked about enough on a national level. We mentioned Naps, and we also got to mention late Wax Master Tory, DJ Sound Machine.
For sure.
You see who else NC hip hop wise. Got to mention Wink Moody. Got to mention Mr.
Wink
Fr-
Moody.
Wink Moody on
Wow.
duty. Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
haven't heard
sir.
that name in years. Shout out to Wink Moody.
Wink Moody, Mr. Freeze of Mr. Freeze records and tapes. Because I was saying, man, if you lived in, I want to say maybe Central North Carolina around Raleigh Durham Triangle area, maybe parts of Eastern North Carolina where you're close to Raleigh, Then you heard Mr. Freeze records and tapes ads all the time on F.O.R.C.E 107 and K97.5. And I believe also too, Dorton Arena don't get talked about enough with what they did for the music scene as well. Because that was one of the early venues where Prince, Rick James performed, and I believe some of the big hip hop shows that came out in the mid to late 80s in the Triangle area were held at Dorton Arena or maybe Reynolds Coliseum in Raleigh,
Okay,
where NC State would play it. But definitely want to hopefully get Nabs on the podcast one day. And then with back to the show, I was glad they were able to highlight the DJ because
for sure.
in listening to Grandmaster Flash's interview on Sway and how he was just breaking down the history, the origins of hip hop, and how he was saying how when the rapper came into the forefront, the DJ got moved to the back, where
Correct.
the DJ was originally the centerpiece, and the
Correct.
rapper was just accompanying the DJ. And for you as a fellow DJ, when do you think that shift occurred to where the rapper got the limelight and the DJ was kind of like treated like special guests on the marquee and not really given the same love and respect like the rapper as they should?
I think that started happening in the early 90s because if you look at it, you had EPMD, they probably were some of the last people to, well, no, does Pete Rock count?
I put Pete Rock. Oh, speaking of Pete Rock, Common said that he's actually going to be working on an album with Pete Rock, and it's going to be '90s hip hop inspired.
Okay, that's dope. Yeah, I would say probably early to mid 90s. That's when they start pushing the DJs back. And DJs kind of start doing their own thing. Then you get people like Funk Master Flex that they started shifting towards radio and TV and doing their own things instead of being associated with just rappers. Um, yeah, I would say early to mid 90s. That's when it all changed. But because before it was all about, yo, the DJ, I got my guy, I'm rapping, but it's really about my DJ. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, man,
yeah,
because a DJ is more than just let me just throw on these records and play. Nah, if your DJ don't make you do the stank face when they cut, transition, or mix, then you ain't no DJ. Go back and look at some of those old DMC World Championships clips of Cutmaster C from out of the UK, DJ Cash Money out of Philly. I mean, speaking of Philly, it's something about Philly where they breed good DJs like Jazzy
yeah, man.
Jeff, Cash Money, and we can go on with all the DJs that came out of Philly because we talk about New York and LA. But what do you think it is about Philly DJs that kind of puts them at that tier?
That's a good question, man. I just kind of, it's weird. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I was just asking somebody. It's funny you asked me that. I was just asking somebody because it's like Virginia is known for producers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Philly is known for DJs. New York is known for MCs. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
Right.
Philly. I don't know what it is about everybody from Philly. They're just good DJs for the most part.
Yeah, it must be something in the cheese steak, the tasty cake, or the water ice. So
Right.
but there's one rapper that I'm glad everybody is really seeing like, yo, this guy was dope. And had it not been, for his accident, he definitely would have been top five gold of all time. And I'm talking about the DLC.
Oh, of course, yo. We don't talk about the DLC enough. Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. DLC was dope, man. I mean, he just is. It's kind of like it's unfortunate the way it happened,
Mhm.
but who's to say, he wouldn't have been on Death Row? Like he would have been the first artist off of Death Row versus Snoop.
Right.
Um, it's unfortunate what happened to him, just
Yeah,
to say the least. Yeah.
yeah, definitely, unfortunate. And then while we're on the West Coast, while all these hip hop at 50 celebrations going on, it's been all good and everything. But there's one guy that has been omitted from most of these performances that I'm like, why hasn't this man been mentioned or has not been asked to perform? and it's beyond me because if it wasn't for this man, rap wouldn't be pop. I'm talking about Stanley Burrell, aka MC Hammer.
That's a good question. I was once again, I was just talking about this man. Another cat that was everything to me when I was growing up. Because you got to imagine, I'm born in '89, so at 2 years old, it's funny. I just posted a video, and my mom says, "What's the name of your fish?" And I go, "High Five and MC Hammer." And I got a big old MC Hammer poster on my wall. MC Hammer does not get enough credit. I feel like he was the first artist make so much money, like tours and as far as a rapper. I don't think artists were making they were making money on tours, but MC Hammer took it to another level. Um, Not only that, man, the man had a cartoon, a doll, commercials, like he was out of here. So MC Hammer, as much as we don't, people like to disrespect him, he's a part of hip hop history, and he's very important. He's a very important piece to hip hop because that he basically linked the bridge to pop music, like you said. Like it was rap, but it was pop.
Yep,
So
that
yeah, shout
yeah,
out to Hammer.
yeah, him along with Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Kid and Play too, who I'm glad everybody's giving their flowers to. Another person who I had a chance to interview and meet Play for Kid and Play, and how they had the cartoon on NBC. It came out, I believe, a year before Hammers, and how those house party movies and Class Act. They really, like I said, I'm glad everybody is starting to really appreciate what they brought to the music industry. And then, of course, with the connection with Salt and Pepper and all links back to Herbie Lovebug, who we don't really hear about enough. I know
I agree.
rockthebells.com, they did a piece on him, I would say maybe a year or so ago. And it was a rare treat because he rarely gives interviews. But, let's give Herbie Lovebug his flowers and what he did with
Facts.
Salt and Pepper, Kid and Play, and everything that he touched.
Antoinette. Yeah.
Antoinette. I think Sweet Tea was down with him too, right?
Yep. I mean, yo, Herbie Lovebug was like, he was almost like say a new Marley Marl. He was like a younger Marley Marl. Like he
Mm,
was like coming out after Marley Marl. So
mm,
nah, Herbie is definitely an unsung hero, bro. Like he's a huge part of hip hop too.
have you caught the Biz Markie documentary on Showtime?
You want to hear what's funny? I had it before it hit Showtime. It they premiered it at some festival, but it was online where you could watch it. And I screen recorded the whole thing because I was like, I'll never see this again. It's going to disappear. They told me, after this day is going away. So I screen recorded it. So I had it before it hit Showtime. Yeah, and it's a dope documentary.
Yeah, I got to catch that too at that festival screening before it hit Showtime, and I was like, man, a lot of stuff I didn't know about Biz and how Biz. I didn't know Biz was a collector like that.
Oh man, what? That dude had everything in his house: jewelry, toys, candy. Like, yo, he preserved everything. Like Gucci sneakers from the '80s, Shirt King shirts. Like crazy, man.
Man,
Biz was one of a kind.
yeah, it's definitely dope. And speaking of, cold chilling, gotta talk about that incident that I believe happened over in the UK with Big Daddy Kane, where he was performing on stage, and there was a rap group, I guess, from the UK that was trying to come to the set, and BK had to be like, "I'm about to get raw, take the coat off," but thankfully it ain't come to blows. But Big Daddy Kane, for me, in my top five or Golden Seas. But can we just talk about how I think how underappreciated cold chilling that era was, and how I think Marley Marl doesn't give his flowers enough for what he brought to the industry. I mean, this man produced so many hits for everybody on cold chilling, but he also did Mama Said Knock You Out for Love.
He did Jingling Baby. I mean, Marley Marl was like, who could I compare him to? He was like the super producer in the '80s. Like you wanted a Marley Marl beat. There was Larry Smith, then there was Pumpkin, and then there was Marley Marl. it wasn't too many known. It was plenty of producers, um, but he was like the super producer of the '80s for hip hop. Um, I mean, you wanted a Marley Marl beat, like a Marley Marl remix will set your single crazy. So shout out to Marley Marl. What's funny? I was supposed to interview Marley Marl this year. It fell through twice because of cancellations to his flight, COVID stuff, related stuff. But hopefully, here soon and very soon, I'll be able to interview Marley Marl. And hopefully, you will too.
Yeah, man, I
And
would definitely love to
I got so
interview
many
Marlon Moore,
questions.
man. I got so
So
many
many questions.
questions too. And when you're thinking about Marley and how I went back and looked at the album credits for the Heavy D and the Boys Living Large album, he did a good chunk of those cuts in addition with Teddy on that album. I mean, like, yo, because if you look at the Uptown Kicking It video, he's in it.
Yeah, he is in that video. Yep, you're right. 100%.
Yeah, and how Uptown, if you look at Uptown Records, that movement with what they did, rest in peace, Andre Harrell, and how they merged hip hop and R&B and the meshing of the two, like I stated, I think in previous interviews, it kind of started with full force with what they were doing. And then, of course, Teddy took it to another level. And then when you later get on with Mary J., if you go back and listen to, I think it's the 52 Beats mixtape with Kid Capri, where he did
Yep.
the Impeach the President blend and Something in the Way You Make Me Feel a cappella with Stephanie Mills. That was kind of like the light bulb, I think, in Andre Harrell and Diddy's head was like, hey, let's take
We need to do
this
this.
and let's apply it with Mary.
Yep, which was a brilliant idea. That that blend itself changed the whole game of music for sure.
And there's a video on YouTube where it was a couple years ago. I think he was doing an event in Indiana and Stephanie Mills was there. And they recreated
Yeah,
that for the first time.
yeah. No, the cool part. I know I keep circling back on myself. I on my wall. Let me see if I can show it to you without showing my junk. On my wall, if you look right here, can you see that
Yes, I can
record on
see
the
that.
wall?
I can see that, sir.
That's something in the way you feel. The promo with the acapella, which is rare, and Kid Capri actually autographed it in 2019. So
Mm,
I'm very, very, very proud of that piece. So if you ever, God forbid something happened to Kid Capri, that blend alone means a lot to me too.
right, man, that's crazy. And then the show ended at about 10:30 or so and everything. But for you, my man, I mean, you got the VIP treatment. You got to go rub shoulders and chop it up with some of the folks backstage. What was it like for you chopping up with them and just being in the midst of Questlove when he got the Soul Train joints playing, and saying, "Yo, I like your mix," and so and so is a fan of your edits, and you stuck.
Man, you know what's funny, dog? It's like, okay, so Jeff had got on a plane that morning. So as we were supposed to do an interview for my podcast called Without No DJ Podcast. So he was telling me, he's like, man, I would do it. It's just I don't know if we're gonna have rehearsal because sometimes we have 12-hour rehearsals. Like we just never know. So that didn't pan out. So I was like, I guess the interview is not gonna happen. Cool. So he shot me a text that morning, me and Jeff, and he says, "Yo, about to hit the plane, headed to Charlotte, man. Let me know what you need." So I'm like, "What does that mean?" If you know Jeff, he sends it's kind of like short text, but
Mhm.
you kind of gotta decode the text. Like, what is he saying?
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So I tell my wife, and I'm like, all right, whatever you give us is cool. So he said, 2 hours later, he said, man, my plane lands at 11 something. I need names. So I give him my name. And Shortcut had put me on his list too.
Mhm.
Um, and so we get to the funny thing is I already had tickets, but I wanted to see, if I had better tickets with them. And so I ended up giving my mentor my tickets. So once we got to the will call, I go, I'm Brandon Mosley and I'm supposed to be on a list. And they're like, oh, you got these passes here. And I'm like, I do? They're like, yeah, da da da. So when I get in there, I don't know what the pass mean. I'm like, what does this mean? And the people are telling me, oh, it's just letting you know that you're a guest of his, and it doesn't mean you go backstage or anything. It's like, okay, cool. So I go greet Shortcut as soon as I get in, and I was like, yo, I'll see you after the show. He's like, yeah, yeah, I'll see you after the show. So I sit down and we're texting during the show, and I was like, yo, I was told that somebody got to come get me for this pass. And he was like, yo, you want to come now? I'll come. You just meet me at the gate. I got you. Because me and my wife had on the pass and little stickers.
Right.
Actually, let me see if I can show it to you. These passes right here.
Ah
Now,
man, you didn't want to leave the backstage pass in the room like the chick in the Heartbreak song and get
chickens.
caught by hotel
Yeah,
security.
yeah, exactly. So, um, we go to the stage on the side of the stage, and we show them our pass. Shortcut is there, and they just like, all right, cool, come on back. So we're literally so close to the stage. LL was spitting on my wife when he was rapping. She was like, I could feel his sweat, like it's dropping on me. That's how close. Like I have a video of us by the stage, and we're that close. Like I can literally like just do my hand like that and tap his foot.
Oh wow.
So we watched the whole show. Well, we watched from um, after daylight went off. Jazzy Jeff was doing the Peter Piper routine on the turntable, and then from that we watched it from the side of the stage. We seen everybody, and at the end they're like, "Hey man, everybody who's going backstage needs to go because we got to break down the stage." So we walk back there. As I'm walking back there, I run into Paz from De La Soul, and very nice guy, very nice guy. Like he was just hanging out. I'm like, do you know who you are? Like, why are you out here? So I chopped it up with him for a couple of seconds. Then we went into a dressing room, not knowing it's the Roots dressing room. So I see Black Thought to the left of me. I see Questlove to the right of me, and it's a line of like people trying to meet Questlove, and he's in his dressing room, and a girl comes out. She goes, I'm gonna try to get y'all in, but it just kind of depends on how he's feeling. If he wants to meet anybody, he wants to take a picture. Like it's kind of how he's feeling. Like I highly doubt it, but I'm gonna try. So I was like, oh okay. So we made eye contact. Now mind you, Quest, we have each other's number,
Right.
but we met one time in person, but it was before he knew me for what I do.
Right.
So he made eye contact with me, but I don't believe he knew who I was. So I see Stro Elliott. Stro Elliott is a producer. He's in the Roots,
Mhm.
and actually Jazzy Jeff put him on. So me and Stro Elliott started talking, and I'm like, blase blase. And then he's like, yo, I'm about to go to Jeff's room. You want to walk with me? So I'm like, yeah. So me and my wife walk over there, see Jeff, talk to him. We rap, we talk, and Maceo from De La Soul was in the room, and we're sitting there talking, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Yo, man, you see Amir?" Now, Jazzy Jeff has a son named Amir, but he calls Questlove Amir. So I'm like, "Yeah, your son just had a birthday." I was like, "He's here?" He was like, "Nah, I'm talking about Amir Questlove." I was like, "I seen him, but I didn't want to, bother him." He's like, "Nah, man." He's like, "We about to walk over there. I'm about to walk you in there." So he walks me over there. Jazzy Jeff is walking me to Questlove. So we walk back in there. That line is still crazy to meet Questlove. He's like, B man, wait 1 second. He walks in there. He's like, B man, come on. So I walk in there, and Questlove is getting his hair braided, like twisted, and
Mhm.
he's watching Soul Train on his laptop. And he says, B man, says, finally good to put a face with a name. Like the guy that texts me about samples all day is like, bro, it is so nice meeting you, bro. Like I am a fan. And we were just sitting there talking, and he's telling me Dilla unheard stories. Um, and then he goes, man, you know the edit you did for Jay-Z, So Ghetto? He was like, yeah, Beyonce heard that, right? And she's a fan of yours. She really digs your stuff. And my wife is right there hearing it. And so I tell my wife stuff like that all the time. And it's kind of like, oh, yeah, you know what I mean? But for her to hear it like from him, she was like, what? Like Beyonce? So laying there for 30 minutes and I mean, it was to the point we were just talking about music, and I was like, okay, I don't want to be awkward and just be like a groupie and just stay in his
Right.
dressing room because it's literally just me, him, his boy, and his hair braider.
Hmm.
So I'm like, I don't want to be a groupie. I'm just like, all right, nice to meet you. I got your phone number, whatever. So I'm like, I tell my wife, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go tell Jeff bye and thank you for everything and short bye. And I felt bad because my wife, the whole show, she's like, as long as I get a picture with LL, I'm good.
Right.
So mind you, when we go back in the room, I'm like, Jeff, does LL come out of his dressing room? It was like, yeah, his dressing room is all the way on the other side, and the likelihood of him coming out is slim to none. Like he doesn't come out. So we're trying to find my car. As we're trying to find my car, I said, babe, it would be crazy if we're walking and we run into LL. Literally seconds. Who did we run into? LL Cool. Just standing out in the open.
Hmm.
And my wife is like, oh my God. Like, and I could see it in her face. She didn't fangirl out, but it's LL. And he's super nice to us. Takes a picture with us. Super nice dude. Like, I didn't even expect him to be that nice.
Right.
Um, so we talked to him for a second. Then we're like, all right, we're finding our car. They give us an exit to go out. We literally land right by my car, like where I parked it. It was, bruh, it was like the most mind blowing night. Even during the show, we're standing on the side of the stage. Imagine being on the side of the stage and you just chilling there, and they put you on the jumbotron on the big screen in the middle.
Hmm.
We were on the screen, just random. Like I'm just sitting there like this, and they put me on the screen for like 10 seconds. Me and my wife. Out of all the people in there, I was like, "Yo, this night is like." I told everybody this happened, they probably wouldn't believe me.
Man, that is crazy. Your backstage story, and to know that B heard your stuff and she digs it, it's only gonna be a matter of time for Hove. You may get it from either him direct or from his people. Like, yo, I want some, and like, to see your beginnings and where you are now to where you have the heavy hitters saying like, yo, you legit, man. I'm a proud of you. I'm amazed by what you do, and that you're my friend, and just to see where you are, man. I mean, God is gonna continue to bless you, bro.
Thank you, man. Likewise, brother. I mean, for real, for real. For me, it's surreal, and I still question everything, and I see everything that you're doing as well. So keep being good to people, keep creating good karma, and more blessings to you, brother. I definitely wish that.
Yes, sir. And then you mentioned De La Soul and Maceo and Pastanews, and they just lost Trugoy not too long ago, and it was right before their whole catalog, was about to hit streaming after their long dispute with Tommy Boy. How did their set look, and how do you think, they've been able to soldier on, with the loss of Trugoy?
Um, Actually, they were the first to go on, and their set was really good. Maceo was DJing and Paz was rap. I mean, both of them were rapping, but Maceo was DJing for him. It was, I'm not gonna front. It was kind of weird seeing, you know, Dave not being there, but it was still good, man. They held it down and they represented for him.
Yeah, and with rap being at its 50th and how we're getting all these think tank
Excuse me.
pieces and all of these archival looks at how it started off as something out of nothing in the basement at Sedgwick and Cedar for a back to school party, became the worldwide phenomenon that it is, and how it's the most popular genre of music in the world. For you and I, we both grew up in that golden area period, late 80s, 90s, early 2000s, and to see where it is now, is it surreal to you to see it, where it is, and to kind of see its,
Man,
its origins from where it was when we were kids?
it's incredible, bro, to see how much it's grown. Even like being there and just looking at the stage shows and remembering going to shows in the early 2000s or the late 90s and looking at how the stage looks compared to then, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. Like, even Shortcut doing the videos, I thought that was super dope. Like, yo, you can actually mix videos and play them before everybody gets here. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's just crazy where hip hop is taking so many people, including myself, man. You know, I would have never thought in a million years that people would be making so much money off of something that came from like the most humble beginnings ever. I did a interview with Rob Swift of the Executioners earlier last month, and he basically broke down to me like I knew somewhat, but I didn't know it was like that. Like
Oh yeah,
hip hop really started from poverty and segregation.
yeah. Dope interview, by the way.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely a dope interview, and definitely check that out. The Without No DJ podcast, Rob Swift definitely gives you a history lesson on race, politics, gentrification, classification, strife, all that good stuff that got combined in and gave us what's called hip hop. And then I was mentioning to you before we started this interview that next month BET they'll be doing a documentary called Welcome to Rap City, talking about Rap
Yeah.
City and the history that it played in making BET what it was. Shout out to Alvin Jones, the unseen VJ. You know, you can catch my throwback interview with him on YouTube. Prince De Jour, you can catch that interview
Wow.
on YouTube. And, but let's just talk about Rap City for a minute and how, it started with Chris Tom. Originally started out as Rap Week on, I believe, Video Vibrations when I interviewed Alvin Jones, was telling me, and then that ended up forming into Rap City. With later with, hosted by the mayor Chris Thomas, and then Dejour, Big Les, Joe Claire, Tigger in the basement, later Mad Link. So can we just talk about how Rap City was appointment television and how, especially during that basement era, you had to be legit in order to step into that booth.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. The basement for me, every day when I came home from school, it was immediate. I think the basement came on at 4 o'clock, and I would always get home at like 3:50, because in Virginia it's like later school than North Carolina.
Mhm.
So when I would get home, Rap City was just coming on. So every day I was a fat kid. I used to eat chocolate cake with some milk and watch Rap City every day. Every day. I've probably seen every Rap City in the basement episode ever. That was every day for me. So Rap City to me was everything. I even remember when Joe Claire and Big Les, like that was kind of my introduction. I miss Chris Thomas and Dejour. I remember Dejour was on Teen Summit at one time.
Yeah, he was on Team
Um,
Summit, him and Ananda Lewis.
Yeah, Ananda Lewis. But mine began with Big Les and Joe Claire. That's kind of where I remember it from. But my most dominant years is probably with Big Tigger. Like that's when I really remember it.
Yeah, same here because I vaguely remember, Chris Thomas hosting Rap City because I was really young during that era of Rap City. And then, of course,
Yeah.
with Dejour, Big Les, Joe Claire, and Silga in the basement, that was definitely the era of Rap City I came up on. And then, of course, we all see, BET got Rap City. And then we have the Yo and TV Raps with Fab Five Freddy, who did the weekly version, and then the daily version was hosted by Ed Lover and Dr. Dre. And then, of course, if you grew up in the tri-state area, you had a Video Music Box hosted by Uncle Ralph McDaniels and hosted by Lionel the Vid Kid Martin. You can find my throwback interview with him on YouTube as well with the Vid Kid.
Wow.
And there's a dope documentary that I think EP by Mass Appeal that Nas did. It was a Welcome to Video Music Box. We talk about the history of Video Music Box and how I didn't know this until that Ralph McDaniel said he tried to pitch it to MTV and they turned it down. And then later came out Yo.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, I did peep that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, but it's crazy with this genre and what it's done, what it continues to do. Can we talk about current projects that you got going on, man?
Man, yo, I'm steady with the edits, still doing that. I'm doing a vibe called Fresh here in Charlotte. It is a festival for families. We have like skating going on, break dancing. It's family friendly. That's September 23rd, I believe. Um, Doing Bay Haven Fest, which is like a food and wine festival. Um, Kind of all over TV. People from all over the world come here. Um, and shout out to Chef Greg and Miss Sabrina. They throw that. If you've never been, you definitely want to get your tickets. Last year was insane. Every year it gets better and better. And that's another thing where we have chefs from all over the world and wine situations going on. It's just a good thing, good positive vibes. And, you know, as far as anything else, probably my interviews with the Without No DJ podcast. You definitely want to check those out whenever you get a chance. Um, yeah, man, I'm just here. Got my hands in a lot of different buckets and just trying to make it happen, man. That's it.
Yeah, man, we're both saying if you get a chance to go to the Force tour, go. It's a once in a
Go.
lifetime experience. You'll never get it again. It's Haley's Comet. You miss it. You miss it. And also go support this man at wherever he's spending. Patreon.com/slash just be man no DJ. Patreon.com/slash just be man no DJ. Patreon.com/slash just be man no DJ. You need them in your life, just like you need
Yeah,
those slugs that Funkmaster Flex was pushing back in the late 90s, early 2000s with Pharaoh Mont, Simon Says in the background. If you know, you know. And got any shout
yeah.
outs you want to give before we wrap, bro?
Yo, shout out to you for having me again, man. Like, bro, your interviews are unmatched. So I definitely I'm going to check that Chris Kelly interview out as soon as we get off the phone. Like you just my ears just perked up. When you said that name, I was like, what? You got an interview with Chris Kelly? So yeah, I'm going to check that out. Shout out to you, man. You've been doing this a long time and you're really good at it. I'm brand new and honestly I learned a lot of, you know, journalism tricks from you. So
Man,
shout out to you, man.
man, yo, I'm humbled. I'm appreciative of you giving me my flowers. I don't really like to toot my own horn, but same
You
thing with
deserve it.
what you're doing, man. And
Oh
this is
man,
what people need to do more of. When your friends doing well, support. Don't hate. Don't covet. What's for you is for you. And I don't know about your faith. You're entitled to believe what you believe, but I know for me, you keep bringing out good energy, like you mentioned,
you
good
get it
karma.
back.
You get out what you put in. You're so good, you do good.
That's right. You said it. You said it.
That's
I can't
that's
say
that's
anything
that's
else.
how I look at it, man. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big thank you for my brother B Man for coming back on to Beyond the Album Cover. Thank you once again, man. You can catch this interview wherever you stream podcasts, also on YouTube at youtube.com/slash Beyond the Album Cover. And once again, patreon.com/slash Just Be Man No DJ. Support B Man,
Appreciate
Just
it.
Be Man,
I
No
appreciate it.
DJ. Thank you once again, bro, wholeheartedly.
I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Yes, sir.